But by mid-1980s, the brick industry declined, and they left behind smokeless chimneys amidst 4,000 hectares of barren, unproductive lands where only wild grass grew. Amar Singh is one amongst thousands of farmers whose forefathers fell prey to the lure.
ये ज़मीनें हमारे पिताजी ने भट्टे में दे दी। पुराने लोग थे, पैसा मिला दे दिया भट्टे में। करीब 2 मीटर तक खुदाई हो गई, ज़मीनें खराब हो गई, मिट्टी बजाय पथरीली हो गई।
The water table fell as low as 40 meters. Lack of vegetation caused cyclones and dust storms in Allahabad, as the intense summer heat caused violent updrafts, sucking up winds blowing down the rivers. They damaged property and killed more than 380 people.
भट्टे में देने के बाद ये उपजाऊ नहीं रह गई।
The land became so unproductive that farmers left the area if they could, or lived in poverty if they couldn't.
आमदनी का कोई जरिया नहीं, खेती बाड़ी थी। घर की स्थिति भी गड़बड़ हो गई, परेशानियां बढ़ने लगी।
With no livelihood, no food, they were shattered. In the 1990s, the NGO Uttan realized that only a large-scale greening program can bring fertility back to the soil and revive the local economy. INBAR, or the International Network for Bamboo and Rattan, came in with technological and financial support, and bamboo became the choice.
The problem was that the soil was sandy, therefore only hardy species could survive in such area. Therefore we picked up bamboo because they add humus, they make the soil acidic, and finally they make it highly productive.
One significant aspect of soil and the beauty of it is it can be spoiled and also you can bring it back to life. And for that what we need is the right type of plantation, and that is where bamboo played a big role in this project.
Starting with the 106-hectare Kotwa Rahimabad watershed, a bamboo nursery was set up. 4 hardy species of bamboo were selected, and with mass propagation through innovative techniques, there was enough saplings to distribute to the villagers. But first, people had to be convinced about bamboo's resilience and its ability to mature quickly in poor and shallow soils. And because the residents had nothing to lose, the effort to encourage them was just as easy as planting bamboo.
बांस में खाद की उत्पत्ति ज़्यादा है ना, और चीज़ में तो हमेशा गोंडा बनाना रहता है। बांस खेती में लगाया, मिट्टी छापा, गोंड के फिर खाद, पत्ती की खाद बनवाई, सिर्फ पानी फिर लगाना रहता है।
Soon bamboo was planted on the bunds around the excavated lands to prevent erosion and provide shelter from wind. The leaf fall from the shoots speeded up the process of bringing back fertility to the soil. In a decade or so, almost like a miracle, the red earth turned green. The first glimpse could be seen in Uttan's nursery. Elsewhere, proud farmers like Farmood Ahmed can't stop praising the sabre shoots.
हमने जो बताया, हमने बांस लगाया, तो बांस लगाया तो उससे कटाव रुका, कटाव भी रुका, फायदा हुआ, पैसा भी हमको मिला, फायदा हमको देख के दूसरे भी जागरूक हुए, लगाए, उससे फायदा हुआ।
Uttan's nursery provides people with saplings of many revenue-producing plants and trees. The surrounding areas are today full of jatropha, guava and papaya trees. Ram Singh's decade-long wait seems small when he shows you the green carpet of vegetables and income-generating trees.
हम लोग उसमें धान लगाने लगे, अभी गेहूँ भी होने लगे, पेड़ भी लगाने लगे, अभी हरी सरसों भी लगाने लगे।
More than 600 farmers like Chokhinal are reaping good profits from the aloe vera they've planted amidst the bamboo shoots.
वहाँ लगाने के बाद हमको एलोवेरा मिला, इससे प्रॉफिट मिला हम लोग का, किसान का।
Working with 120 local NGOs, each year Uttan distributes 500,000 bamboo seedlings and millions more tree, shrub and herb seedlings. Over the years, Uttan has grown its work from a greening program to encompass more integrated community development. More than 40,000 students study in its technology institutes and schools.
In sustainability, we have to take care of the poverty alleviation program, the livelihood security program, and at the same time, making those people self-sufficient to take care of themselves.
Today, Uttan has expanded its work to 3 other states in northern India. After 10 years, it has rehabilitated over 85,000 hectares of land using bamboo as a pioneer crop.
A smile in the face of the people. What you can see is a witness to what bamboo has contributed to their lives.
फायदा है कि उसको बेच के लड़का बच्चे को पढ़ाते हैं.
हाँ, बात से खुशहाली आई. जहाँ कुछ नहीं मिलता तो वहाँ मिल रहा है. अच्छा खासा.
At the end of the day, bamboo played the greening role to perfection. While Amar Singh loves the sound of his tractor ploughing his fertile land that's risen like a phoenix from the ashes, there is still one thing that stands as a reminder.
ये भट्टे की अभी निशानी पड़ी हुई है. ये भट्टे की.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we should maybe start. I know this room is still very empty, but it's also 9:15, and I want to give at least some of you the opportunity to have a bit of a discussion with us, because there might be things you want to ask. So maybe I can ask our panelists to come to the front, and we start with a bit of a discussion, and then we will take it from there. And people will come in, I guess, over the coming minutes. Sunday morning, 9 o'clock is not a good time to start. Welcome. Maybe let me say a few words, but if you want to come to the front already, that might be a good idea. Oh. Not really. I'm sitting here. Yes, please. I think the last two are for Mr. Yi and the interpreter. You know, today we're going to tell you about bamboo and how bamboo really fits in the discussions of the Global Landscape Forum, and more general in discussions about land management, land restoration, erosion control, and the whole aspect of nature-based solutions for development challenges. I'm the Director General of the International Bamboo and Rattan Organization, INBAR. Our headquarters are in China, but we currently represent 44 countries in the world that see the opportunities that bamboo and rattan provides. Most of those countries in the global south. So a lot of what we do is South-South cooperation. And basically, the essence is that bamboos, although they look like trees, or a good number of them look like trees, are actually all grass species. And that is very important, because it does mean if you cut bamboo, one, you're not cutting any trees, but two, just like grass, it grows back. And therefore, it's an incredibly sustainable form of whatever you want to do with the bamboo. I think what I wanted to do today, and that's why we've got such an interesting panel, is to make that connection between bamboo as a plant, as a means to hold soil together, to think about climate change mitigation, within the landscape as a natural component, and then link that to the market, link that to what actually can we do with this bamboo once we plant it. I mean, it's so often the question, if you talk to farmers and say, we think that you should consider bamboo, the question is, yeah, but what am I going to do with it? How do I sell it? Where do I sell it? So to have a value chain that actually identifies the market opportunities is important. We have with us 3 private sector representatives from China, but giving us their view on how they use bamboo and why they see that this is important. So with that introduction, let me introduce our panel. On my right is Eduardo Mansour, who is the Director of Water and Lands. Is it just Water and Lands, Eduardo? Land and Water. Land and Water, there you go. In Food and Agriculture Organization. So this is the man that is overseeing the whole Water and Lands portfolio of the Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome. Next to him is Tring Long, who's actually working for us as the coordinator of a global assessment of bamboo and rattan. And I'm sure he'll tell you more about that. Vincent Gitz, next to Long, is the coordinator of the CGGR Forest, Trees and Agriculture Program, one of the big integrated programs between various partners, and we are one of those partners. And then we have several Chinese representatives. Mr. Kai Liang, is that the right way of pronouncing it? Yeah. Great. Mr. Kai Liang is the Chief Branding Officer of Vanov. Vanov is a company in southern China, in Sichuan, that makes tissues from bamboo. Next to him is Dr. Dr. Jiang, from Yong'an, which is a city in Fujian province that makes everything from bamboo, and he'll tell us more about that. And the last speaker is Mr. Yilin, who is the head of a company that makes the most amazing things from bamboo composites. Pipes, railway carriages, housing units, and they will tell you a little bit more about all of that. So these people are going to give us some thoughts on their perspective of bamboo and landscape restoration and land management. And then we'll open the floor for you to have a bit of an interaction. I would like to get some of your thoughts. I apologize that we are all of one gender, so certainly we would like questions from the other side, and we can balance it a little bit. But let me first start with Eduardo. Eduardo, give us your thoughts, not necessarily just from the bamboo perspective, but how do you see this whole field of land management, water management, and do you see bamboo has a role in that?
Thank you very much. Is this working?
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the panel, great pleasure to be here. And I appreciate your stamina for a Sunday morning. It's great to see this a small group, but it's an interested group. So we're very happy to have the chance to be together this morning. Let me bring a few points for your consideration, which has been striking us in FAO and particularly at this forum. Yesterday we heard from the mayor, the deputy mayor of Bonn in the opening, that we have to be the drivers of positive change. It's a big statement. There is a call for action, for transformative action. Why? Because we have too much degraded land in the planet. And if we restore this degraded land that exists in the planet, and figures vary, but they are around 2 billion hectares of degraded land, we will be able to produce the products, the food, and the ecosystem services that we need for sustainable livelihoods, for sustainable life in the planet. We don't need to cut not even one more tree to produce the food we need for now and for the future, if we work clearly on the restoration aspects of land. Unsustainable practices have been degraded too much, landscapes and seascapes. And I think that we have to look at this opportunity that we have now. The World Bank director Karen Kemper, yesterday also, she mentioned that we urgently need to find sustainable production systems. So let's translate this to sustainable production landscapes. And we need to have these landscapes producing something that will be ecologically important, economically important, socially important. You know that I'm leading to bamboo, right? You already start imagining the opportunities you have with bamboo there. We also learn that the economic systems, if we link economic systems with restoration, the opportunities increase exponentially, increase dramatically. We have to be able to produce income from the restoration, and that would bring win-win results. Also, we know that the restoration agenda is gaining momentum. For those who will attend the UN General Assembly in New York this month, you will witness the country El Salvador submitting a resolution to the UN General Assembly for declaring an international decade on ecosystem restoration. And FAO and the UN Environment are backing up this proposal of El Salvador, and now it's becoming a proposal of the Central American countries. Is it important in Central America? Restoration is important everywhere, in the developed world, in the developing world. And if we get this UN observance, the 10 years look into ecosystem restoration, we can be transformational. Also, Hans, you asked me to get a broad picture. We hear more and more on nature-based solutions, solutions that come from nature, combining the green with the gray infrastructure, bringing up alternatives for minimum interference in the environment, or bringing back the healthy environment we need, the health ecosystems we need for livelihoods. So another lesson, and the last one in general terms I would like to bring. We have seen example of species-specific conservation when it links with sustainable livelihoods. In the region where I am from, I'm from Brazil, from the Amazon region. We have in the Amazon, not only in Brazil, but in the whole Amazon watershed, one species named Phytelephas macrocarpa, which is a palm that produces a coconut that's not edible, but it's very good for sharpening. It looks like ivory, and it is ivory texture. So we call it the vegetable ivory. And it entered the market in the region to produce buttons, to produce lots of tarty crafts. It's sustainable, and it helped a lot conserving the ecosystems where Phytelephas macrocarpa occur. And why? Because there is a market link with it. So it's not novelty to talk about species-specific conservation. You get a species, and you use this species to promote sustainable livelihoods and sustainable use, because they are relatively easy to reproduce. Then, colleagues, bamboo are more than 1,600 species. They have a tremendous adaptability opportunity. So, and we all know, as Hans explained, bamboo is a rhizome. It's a grass. In the FAO definition of forest, it falls there because we say if you have a land with 10% of canopy coverage and up to 5 meters high, and it's a forest. But you can classify it as a forest, but you can manage it much easier than trees, and the reproduction is much easier. And if it's well chosen, the bamboo species, and it's well managed, it can be very positive, especially in restoration, in soil restoration, in aggregating soil, in occupying soils that have been heavily degraded. Last, Hans, let me bring to the colleagues the attention of this publication. We launched it at the INBAR Congress earlier this year in Beijing. Bamboo for Land Restoration. It's a joint INBAR, FAO, NEPAD, and TerraAfrica product. It analyzed the results in 8 countries, 4 in Asia, 2 in Latin America, and 1 in Latin America, actually Colombia, and 4 in Africa, Ghana, South Africa, Tanzania, yes. And then the book is printed, but it's downloadable. It's much easier to download it. We don't have enough copies. Sorry to extend myself, Hans, but I would like to bring quickly to the colleagues the lessons learned here. Bamboo programs that have been done through local participation, from bottom-up participation, have been more successful. Lessons learned from these countries. Raising awareness has been, local media has been a tool to engage. The potential of integrating bamboo plantation with bamboo product, make the, let's say, the bingo, the wow factor, because it brings on what? The economic aspect, much easier than other species-specific restoration. So the opportunities for transforming your restoration, not only on an ecosystem service, but on a product, is much higher on bamboo. And then the challenge. We have to have site-specific matching of the selections. Not all bamboos go everywhere, we know that by biology, but it's a bit tricky to find the right species. And sometimes it can generate problems if you go and start and insist with the wrong species. Remember, I mentioned more than 1,600 species. And the problem we have now is, I think, a twofold. And I would like to bring that to the discussion to see if you agree with me. One is that there is a tremendous imbalance with the experience of the countries that have potential to use bamboo. And that imbalance, we will hear from China, we will hear probably from India, we will hear from Colombia in Latin America, but the same could happen in other countries and it's not happening yet. So there is an opportunity there. The second challenge I see is the scale. We have been particularly successful in small scale. But if we want to be of impact in terms of restoring and the opportunities, 2 billion hectares, we have to enlarge the scale. And enlarging is not very easy, because what we do in terms of nursery, in terms of species selection, is still at a scale that requires more knowledge. And we have to do more studies on that. So this is maybe the lessons that are described here that I would like to share with you, and see if you have any experience or comment to that. Thank you very much,
Eduardo. Thank you. Thank you for that very comprehensive picture to sort of really position bamboo. Mr. Yilin, I'd like to go to you, because Eduardo is talking about, linking up the start of the process, the conservation, the land restoration, the protection, with making something out of it. You are making things out of bamboo. Tell us a bit more. What do you need to develop a successful bamboo-based industry?
谢谢费汉斯先生的提问。那个女士们、先生们，上午好。
Thank you, Hans.
It'll go.
Thanks for a question from Mr. Hans. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
那个费汉斯先生提的这个问题呢，范围很大，但是我认为任何产业的发展，首先呢，这么多要素里面这些要素都是非常重要的。
Actually, the question from Hans is quite big for how to developing all these factors, how to developing a successful bamboo industry. First of all, I think all those factors, including policy, investment, natural resources, research and development, innovation, are all important to a development of an industry.
就从我们搞研发的这个过程呢，我谈谈我的一些想法这个我的想法呢，在整个新兴产业里面呢，一开始最起源的一个要素就是创新研发。
So I would like to, discuss, because based on our own experience for our development on our products. So I think that among all these factors, innovation is the most base factor among all these factors.
如果没有这个技术上面的创新研发，那么后面的一些要素，像政策金融这些就无从谈起了。
So without this basic, very basic innovation factor, other factors like policy or investment and financing, everything will be nowhere to go.
那个大家都知道，那个竹子呢，原来其实人类已经应用了几千年了。
So as everyone knows that actually the utilization of bamboo from mankind has been for thousands of years.
在我们人们的老师的观念里面呢，一般认为竹子呢能够做成一些简单的劳动工具、一些生活用品，还有一些房屋。
From the normal people's thinking that bamboo could be used to produce simple tools for working and simple tools for living, and also some houses using original bamboo poles.
但是由于这些产品呢，它有它的一些局限性，所以呢，到目前为止，我们的地球上面的竹子呢，还大量的被闲置。
And also due to this application of bamboo has many limitations. And that is why currently the bamboo resources all over the world are mostly idle, actually.
我们呢，从07年开始做了一项研究，就是用竹子为基本的材料、结构材料，然后呢，用低石油基含量的粘结剂、水溶性的粘结剂作为这个粘合剂，然后呢，通过缠绕的方式，我们研发出了一种新型的生物基材料，取名为做缠绕复合材料。
So from 2007, we started the developing of a new composite that we use bamboo as base structural material and lower fossil oil-based resin, water-based resin, as adhesive. That we develop a composite called bamboo winding composite.
用这种材料呢，能够做成大口径的压力管道、城市综合管廊、各种车厢，还有整体组合式房屋。
And using this composite material, we can produce products like pressure pipe, transportation carriage, like chain couch, also utility tunnel and modular house.
我们的压力管道口径直径可以做到3米，我们的综合管廊直径可以做到8米。
The diameter of the pressure pipe that we can produce, the highest is 3 meters, and the diameter of the utility tunnel can reach 8 meters.
我们的车厢，甚至于包括高铁的车厢，都是整体缠绕的。
The carriage, including high-speed chain couch, are in wholly piece winded.
我们的房屋在车间里都生产好、装修好，甚至于连家具都摆好了，运到现场就可以安装。
The house we produce, winded house, we have everything decorated in the workshop and transported to the site, and then set it there, and it's done.
一个200平方的一个2层的房屋，在现场安装时间大概只有不超过2小时，人们就可以入住了。
A house with a square meter of around 200 square meters can only needs 2 hours to be installed, and after that, people can went inside and live there.
这些用这个材料做了一些产品，它的性能要最起码等于或者超过了原来传统材料做的产品。
So some of the performance with this material is better than those ones with traditional materials like cement and plastic and steel.
而且成本都比传统的产品要低。
With a lower cost.
而且有些还低了比较多。
Which some of them is quite low than those of traditional materials.
像这些产品市场就非常大了。
Thus, these products will have very huge market demand.
这样子呢，能够就有大量的钢筋、钢材、水泥、塑料，这样子呢，对整个地球的这个应对气候变化，是非常正面的。
So these materials will replace a huge quantity of traditional materials such as cement, plastic, and steel, which helps a lot with the tackling of climate change and those sustainable development goals.
这项技术呢，已经在中国已经迅速展开，同时呢，国家的政策和金融也迅速在跟进。
So this industry has been growing very rapidly in China right now, and together with it, the policies and financing from the government as well goes into this industry.
不知道我的回答，比汉斯先生满意吗？
So I'm not sure whether my
谢谢。
answer that
Thank you
Hans
very
you're
much.
happy with.
No, very, very interesting. This little brochure has a picture of that pipe. It's quite amazing, you know, basically green procurement to the extreme. Drainage pipes for councils, for agriculture. Long, I want to come back to you now because Eduardo already raised this issue. If you want to develop, you need scale. And as Mr. Yilin says, you know, to produce these pipes, you need a lot of bamboo. China has 3 million hectares of planted bamboo, so there is that resource. But what about the rest of the world? We know we have the Bond Challenge. How do you see bamboo fitting in that, and what are the opportunities, what are the challenges?
Thank you very much, Hans, for your question. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a very interesting question, and it also challenges there as well. First of all, we at work at the INBAR, there are 44 member states have already learned experience from how China uses bamboo for economic development. The scale of industry in China that require large volume of bamboo. But in many countries, they don't know what is the advantage of bamboo compared to other trees. How can they use that first? So I first give some figures that we have learned from bamboo, and our member state also learn about that. It's already Dr. Hans and my colleagues here already talk about that bamboo is a garage family, and garage, but giant garage, they grow very fast. It's several studies find that annual carbon sequestration from bamboo forest under managed conditions, it can reach up to 25 tons of carbon per hectare per year. That is more than twice of eucalyptus trees can do. Eucalyptus forest, they can sequester around more than 10 tons of carbon per hectare per year, while a bamboo is that fast. Apart from the fast growing, high rate of carbon sequestration, they are also very easy to manage. It is grass. Once you cut them, they grow again. They grow fast. You don't lose the forest. If the trees forest, you cut more species, you have to replant it. And that cost quite a lot of effort again, money, labor. Why bamboo you cut and you just let it be. You collect again after that. And they also fast growing. For trees, it can take a decade or more, several decades. While a bamboo, if you plant them, after 4 to 5 years, you can harvest them. Once you harvest them, you harvest annually. All come up, you cut it. The new come will come on again. So that kind of aspect, it makes it bamboo very easy. And furthermore, bamboo forest harvesting, you don't require a large machine. You can manage it easily by individual person. That's abundant labor in the community around the world can manage them very easily. Realize it aspects. INBAR member states had already made a commitment that they will contribute to the Bond Challenge by restoring 5 million hectares of degraded land with bamboo. And we had conducted a survey on that, how the progress of the member state for implementing this commitment. And currently, our commitment is almost 6 million hectares from 44 member states. Of course, number of countries don't have degraded land or do not planting bamboo, but the 18 countries already make commitment for almost 6 million hectares. But currently, the rate of reforestation is still a bit low because we find that there are a number of challenges. One of the challenges that my colleague here at Manso had mentioned before is that it's to upscale the projects. At a small scale, they see that it's successful, it meets three conditions like social acceptance, environmental suitability, and economical viability. All of that three important for land restoration, it matches. But larger scale, it's not that, because the number one is that where there are very little knowledge on bamboo for seedling production, in most of the projects, they face a challenge that they cannot produce enough seedling. That we have to work on, because bamboo produce seed, it's very, very unpredictable. Some species, they can produce after 60 years or 100 years. Some can produce several years, but most of the species people prefer to plant, several decades, they will produce seed. And at the moment, they only use the method that is offsetting method, using the rhizome comb or cutting that vegetative method. They cannot produce a larger quantity of seedling. The second challenge that we face that is the financial support. At the moment, we see that land degradation, it's serious, all talk about that. But the finance for this sector is very limited, either at the national level or international level. So many countries face that kind of challenge there as well. And that is some challenge I mentioned here, the two biggest challenge for for large scale bamboo restoration.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Lon.
Han.
Thanks. I mean, I think what you're pointing out there is, there are some real challenges, especially for other countries. But I wonder if we can take a case study in China. Dr. Jiang, you come from a town, and of course, it's a small town for China, but it still means that it's several million inhabitants. And Yong'an wants to position itself as a center for bamboo. So in a way, the same challenges, I guess, that we are facing elsewhere, but within a Chinese context. Give us your thoughts. How does a city like Yong'an develop a bamboo industry that covers a range of things?
Okay. Thanks a lot, everybody. Good morning. And it's my pleasure to be here to share some information about a city, a pioneer city, special in bamboo industry. This city in China, people call it Bamboo City. The city name is Yong'an. It's located in the east-south in China. And the city has an advantage of the place because the city has many rains. Bamboos growing need many waters. So the climate is quite suitable for bamboos growing and plantation. So there are many natural resources in Yong'an. There are about 68,000 handicrafts in the city. People use bamboo 4,000 years old. Why? There's a reason why and how Yong'an faced the challenge of to development the bamboo industry. Why the farmers, they have the power. They want to planting and keep the rate of the bamboo forestry. So, in my opinion, and the most crucial and most important reasons, I think, is in creative innovation, including policy innovation, and technology innovation, including the machinery, what kind of machinery we must to creative innovation and development, designed, and how to make the price of the bamboo productions the more lowest price, and to occupy the more marketings, and how to use, bamboo, including bamboo shot, bamboo load, bamboo store, and even for including bamboo leaves, and how to use this kind of all from the beginning, from the road to the end of bamboo. We can 1% to use the bamboo materials. So it's my pleasure to show something about Yuan'an. First, I like to introduce the policy. You know, there are many, many bamboos growing in the mountains, but there's no nose to linking about bamboo forestry, bamboo mountain, and the village, and the manufacturing. There's no nose. So the local government encourage farmers to build a node. So if you have a nose, farmers can easily carry the bamboo loads, raw materials, from the top of the mountain to the manufacturing.
The roads?
Yeah, roads. The second, in the taxi, you know, China enterprise, as an own enterprise, they may pay the taxi to the government. The government lower the taxi, even for free taxi, for special bamboo industry. And even they increase some designers, and the human resource, and there's expert for marketing. They give government give many benefit policy to absorb the human resource experts to work and living in Yuan'an city. So I think this is the first innovation. How to encourage the farmers wanted to planting bamboos. The second is how to encourage the enterprise and the farmers to lowest, not increase, lowest the costs and the price, the first. The second, I think, the innovation and creative is in technology. Nowadays, many money paid on human beings' salaries. In Yuan'an, more and more enterprise, they use machinery instead of labors and lower the salaries. And this is a projector. We call that cross industry. You know, we must combine with the machinery development companies together to design the new machines. Like China, many processing steps use machinery. Just now, you can see in the slide, there's a woman to select the same color of the bamboo slip. So to keep the same color of a bamboo panel, now, before they use eyes to check. Now they use a machine to scan the slip, bamboo slip. So we can get, through the scan, we can get the same color of each slip. So it's a machinery. And you know, in the bamboo manufacturing, we use many glue. But many containers, such as food plate, salad bowl, this kind of items, it touch food. How to guarantee this kind of raw materials, including glue? Glue is a safety for the body, for the health. So we need FDA testing. So how to development this kind of food glue is also a challenge. Fortunately, we are in creation. And the third, they use the utilization of bamboo. Now we use the bamboo, have a bamboo particle bowl, and bamboo, this laminated bowl, and we including flooring and container floorings and furnitures, like this furnitures. So creation and innovation is very, very important, and get some success in Yunnan City. So I'm here to also invite institute and everyone here to give us more creative innovation to help the city of Yunnan to get more success. Okay, thanks.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Jai. So that's a very interesting list of requirements: infrastructure, tax incentives, design and innovation, how to get into the industrialization, even with IT, and standards, very important. Now, Vincent, how do you see that in a big global research program? Do you see that there are linkages between what you're doing with FTA and this sort of discussion about the end of the supply chain, the end of the value chain?
Yes, Hans, and first of all, you mentioned a research program, but in fact we're a research for development program. And what I find very interesting in this panel and also in the title of this discussion, it's about land restoration. We talk about it a lot here in the Global Landscapes Forum, but about economic development. And one of the things we need really to understand, and we looked about that with our partners of FTA, including INBAR this summer. Okay, when we look at land restoration, what are the key constraints to upscaling? And one of the key constraints is that we have identified. Of course, first we need to have the right tools. 1,600 species of bamboo, many other trees, I mean, not many trees that we can use. What trees for the right place and how? That's one of the core aspects of, I would say, knowledge gap. Another one is about policies, regulations, governance, but second area. But most importantly, what about the economics aspect of land restoration? What about costs and benefits? What about the investments and also the value chains, the market developments, and the potential? And we believe that there won't be any sustainable land restoration if there is not, if we don't give the means to increase over time the livelihoods of people that live on those lands. And one of the key constraints here, as we talk about restoration, is the time scales or time lag. We invest, and then our smallholder invest, and then many years after, they get the economic returns. And what is interesting with bamboo is that, as we've seen, it grows quicker and faster. And another very interesting particularity is, as we've seen in these slides, it's a very versatile plant. Lots of many products, lots of innovation can come out of this plant, and that makes it, yes, a very good plant for restoration in different contexts. Now it comes with challenges, but each challenge is an opportunity. And one of the examples that perhaps later in the day at 4 p.m. and Park Waono is in the room, but you will hear more about that, is about using bamboo to restore degraded lands, but at the same time to produce clean energy. And there's an initiative that is led by Clean Power Indonesia, of which FTA is part of, is to understand how we can introduce or we can leverage the fact that local population very often know how to grow bamboo. They're in remote places. They need to be restoring their land, and at the same time they need energy, when very often the energy only comes from barrels of diesel coming from boats, such as in the Mentawai Islands in the west part in the west coast of Sumatra, 200 kilometers from the main island. And here, Clean Power Indonesia is building small scale or smaller scale off-grid biomass, bamboo-based energy generation plants in order to enable. That is the foundation of economic development, on further investment that can then trigger in these regions. Another example, just to talk about Ethiopia, INBAR has worked a lot on Ethiopia with an assessment, a very interesting assessment of all the opportunities, including the markets that bamboo development can can offer a link to restoration. Of course, Ethiopia is also a country which is a very important native country for bamboo, and it's also a threatened resource in Ethiopia, very often because of the lack of understanding, as you've said, of the potential for uses. And here we have also interesting species of bamboo in the lowlands that are more resistant to droughts, that are more adapted to poor soils, etc. And that can have a very good potential. But now, what when the population consider bamboo as a weed or as something that is perhaps less valuable than immediate cash crops, etc. So we need what we need to do is to find a way to develop new markets, maybe get away of the image of low cost or low tech options that is often associated with such market, and then overcome constraints such as for new enterprises, starting small, lack of credit, better clarity in land allocations, and better linkages to market. And one of the big issues here, and maybe INBAR can help, there are imbalances, as you've said. How can we deal with technology transfer? How can we deal with imbalances of knowledge and market analysis and development? So just in a nutshell, we believe that if we want to succeed in restoration, we cannot only look at the landscapes. Of course, we need to look at the landscapes, but we need to look at the people in the landscape, and we need to connect them with the value chains that can come out of this, out of the productive aspects of restoration, and that's and trying to overcome all some of the key bottlenecks are in fact easy. Sometimes it's only the absence of regulation for a product. You just make it happen, and then you have a whole market that enables that you may open, like for example in constructions or in packaging for food, etc.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Vincent. I think that makes a lot of sense, and in a way you've fantastically led me to the last speaker, because one area that we haven't really talked about is bamboo pulp for paper manufacturing. Now, there are different ways again. I mean, I went to a paper factory where they made paper by hand, a bit like parchment almost. You know, quite appropriate technology maybe for countries that haven't got into the industry. But I would like Mr. Kai Liang to tell us more about what they do, because he comes from a company in Sichuan that makes this. And that's, again, industrial development. Kai Liang.
Well, hi everyone, I'm Liang, and I'm from Bamboo Company, and I'm so glad to be here to join in the GLF. And I have heard that Starbucks has recently discontinued the use of straws. They are using plastic lids, which are easier than plastic straws to break it down. So actually, we are doing the same thing. We are using bamboos instead of the woods. And I remember the concept of the GLF is make it from concept to commit and then to action. This is our action. We have make a dream come true. And so let's please take a look at this tissue paper in my hand. It's called a bubble. And its Chinese name is called bamboo. So it sounds like very similar with the word bamboo. Yes, we use bamboo to make tissue paper. It feels soft. How you feel? Yeah, it feels soft and has a natural color of and a smell of the bamboos. It's unbleached, free of any additives, antibacterial, and healthier. So although it takes just a few seconds for me to take this tissue paper from this bag, it takes years to get developed. We did thousands of experiments to invent it. Honestly, the development process is very difficult. I cannot remember how many times we failed for the test of making it. But you know, we never give up, and finally we made it. A lot of people around me ask me, why are we using bamboo to make such piece of paper? All right, the normal paper, like the white paper, they're made from trees. They must add something chemical to dye the color into white to make it seem more cleaner than the others. But actually,
there are two types of fibers that need to make papers, which is short fiber and long fiber. The short fibers come from the trees, as we can see in the street. It takes several years to grow up, like 5 to 7 years to grow up, and long fibers come from the trees in the forest, as they are very tall trees, take 20 to 30 years to grow up. No matter long fiber trees or short fiber trees if we cut it too much, it's destroying the environment. So we are looking for a material which has a long enough fiber and its growth period is very short. Then we find bamboo. Okay, bamboo only take 3 years to grow up, and after 3 years, it will grow 30 meters in only 2 months, which means we can cut it. We cut it, it grows up, we cut it again, it grow up again. It grows very fast. And this is our greatest contribution to the ecological environment. And we only use one fiber, which is a bamboo fiber, to create papers. And we hope that people can feel the nature and the health is so close to them through this piece of tissue paper. So bamboos are our best choice because of its short growth period, ecological protection, and sustainability. So far, we have built our own production base and head office in Chengdu, Sichuan, China, which is the hometown of the pandas. And we integrated bamboo growing, pulping, paper making, packing, selling to build a complete industrial chain for our own bubble brand. Besides, we have taken use of every part of the bamboo. We use bamboo fibers to make tissue paper. We use waste liquid as energy for the electricity. We use the rest of waste for the fertilizer, for growing bamboos or any other plants. We have set up a recyclable, sustainable, closed-loop model, which is a pollution-free and a low-emission ecological system. Annually, we use over 1 million tons of the bamboo, and this offers over 1 million job opportunity for the local farmers. So governments like us very much. If I use only 2 words to describe this tissue paper, I think they should be simple and non-excessive. This tissue paper has 6 features. First, original, ecology, and impurity-free. Second, dust-free. Third, harmful chemicals-free. Fourth, more than 95% antibacterial rate. Fifth, strong water-absorbing quality. Sixth, FDA certification, which means if I eat our tissue paper, I'll be fine. maybe the taste is not as good as delicious. No, we're gonna make it delicious in the future. Just kidding. All right. Therefore, we are not just providing this tissue paper for daily use. We also want to make a healthier lifestyle and pursue a better life. And all the above bubble features make us the most popular unbleached tissue paper brand in China. And our market share in unbleached tissue paper for daily use has reached over 50% in just 4 years. And we are the largest manufacturer of unbleached tissue paper using bamboo pulp in the world. And we are looking forward our cooperation with every one of you here, and we think we will keep a dream that the world should maintain its natural side and people in the world can live more ecologically, more environmentally, and more healthily. And this dream starts with this
unbleached tissue paper called Bubble in my hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. He's the Chief Branding Officer. Well, thank you very much. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, this has given you some idea of this link. And I like the way Vincent put it, the link between the restoration agenda and the economics. How can you connect the two? I would like to turn to you. Does anybody have questions? Does anybody say, hey, this is interesting, I want to know more? We have, I think, Ting, do we have? Great. Let me first go to the lady there, and then Jaya, I'll come back to you. Can you just introduce yourself?
So thank you very much for such a nice panel and so much information. So my name is Nga from Vietnam, and currently I am a PhD student in Germany because bamboo is also my topic. So I'm really interested, and actually I have so many questions. I think the first question for Douglas from FAO. I know that like bamboo still have an institution problem. That is, there are not much recognition of bamboo in terms of its ecological roles in restoration. So from FAO perspective, do you think any potential to strengthening of the role of bamboo into the current initiative in introducing deforestation, like REDD Plus or payment for ecosystem services? So that is the first question. The second question is for Dr. Jiang. I'm really happy that you're working a lot on business model between farmer and processing company. So I would like to know a little bit more, like what are the business model currently applied in the city?
Yo estoy en la cabina inglesa, tú me escuchas, perfecto. Y si pones allí en la selección de canales de escuchar castellano, entonces me podrás escuchar.
Product, is that domestic in China or that is international? And any requirement like certification or verification or whatever for the product?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can I ask some other people?
Yeah, sure.
We'll ask you to answer in a moment, but Jaya, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Hans. My name is Jaya Wahono from Clean Power Indonesia. Thank you, Vincent, for a little bit introduction about my project in Mentawai. We will be speaking about that later in the afternoon. I saw the slide behind you. There's one slide showing the hotel in Amsterdam. It's called Hotel Jakarta. Interesting for me because that's referring to the capital city of Indonesia, Jakarta. But as far as I know, there is no single building in Jakarta made from bamboo. So what you are referring to. My question, Hans, and maybe Long and Vincent can also add more. Why is it so difficult to push for bamboo-based industry development in Indonesia? We have the minister here yesterday. So our minister is the only minister outside of Germany that present in this conference. And we have C4 based in Indonesia. Indonesia is made of thousands of islands, and every single island has native bamboo species. We are very close to bamboo since our ancestor. If you go to Bali, bamboo is part of our daily ritual. But why is it so difficult to push for bamboo-based development in Indonesia? And you can be very honest because there's no bureaucrats here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaya. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question? If not, I'll turn to my panelists for some of the answers. Eduardo, I think there was a question for you particularly.
From the student from Vietnam, thank you very much. The answer is a big yes. you ask if bamboo has the potentiality to engage. There's no doubt about it. I would just use with the word of care the word reforestation. It has to be country specific. You can call bamboo a forest. It's within the definition of forest that we use in the United Nations, as I mentioned, more than 1 hectare, more than 10% canopy cover, more than 5 meter diameter high, it's classified as physically as a forest. But we know it's not a tree. Then in some countries, forests and trees have more restriction for use than if it's not classified as a forest. So we have to be opportunistic, because that links with the question from the gentleman from Jakarta. Why is it so difficult to get that on the scale in certain countries? Why we see in China how far they have been going for ages, and other countries in Asia, and in other countries, even in Asia and outside Asia, it doesn't gain momentum. So, and then the other question was on payment for environmental services. Well, it can be tricky, because if you have, as everything else in nature, good management produces good results, bad management produces bad results. Wrong bamboo species can cause problems. We have to realize that. And we should not insist on that, because we are dealing with a grass that is very aggressive. Let me make an analogy with reforestation, the use of eucalyptus. There are big debate of the eucalyptus that can be drying lands, etc. Eucalyptus is just a very resistant, aggressive, but it can be positive in terms of restoration, in terms of wood supply, if it's well managed. So good reforestation produces good result, bad reforestation produces bad result. And the payment for environmental services is not automatic on this. So that's my point. There is a big challenge, and just to close, we heard from the colleagues from China a word that was repeated from different ones: innovation, even creative innovation. These guys are incredible, what they do. I mean, who didn't enjoy the presentation about the tissue? I'm going to take this one to Rome. I'm going to make publicity on your behalf now, because I want to have this on my desk and tell the story. It's a tree, and if you have the chance, touch it. It's 3 layers, it's 3 ply. So you can have that very big coat, and it will still resist it. A very, very interesting product. We are only going to get scale if we get innovation linking with this creativity that we have to reach an economy of scale. So I'm very impressed with the results that have in China, and challenged by the same question of you. I don't have the answer. Why, if it's so good, why it's not there? There is a space there. Scale is a problem. It's a problem to replicate this in other countries. So we have to be, we still need to develop on that area.
I mean, I don't think I can answer why it is not happening in Indonesia, Jaya. You presumably know better than me. But I can tell you from my own perspective, although I'm not Chinese, why it has worked in China. China, some 30, 40 years ago, made a policy decision, and that was number 1. High-level decision: we are going to use bamboo for restoration. Incentives, I mean, it's been mentioned a couple of times. Financial incentives, basically pay farmers to plant, initially. Those subsidies have gone, but it was one way to kick off the industry. But I think the other one, and again, I think, Mr. Zhang, you mentioned it, infrastructure. That was so critical. And of course, China provided this as one of its sort of, basically national initiative almost. So in the provinces where bamboo is one of the resources, there is an infrastructure to get the poles out to the road, from the road to the village, from the village to the manufacturing plant. And I think those are things, if we can achieve that in other countries, I think there is a very high likelihood that things will develop. But Mr. Zhang, I think there was a question for you about the business model. And do you already sell internationally, or is it mainly a domestic market?
Okay, I think it has 2 questions for me, right? It's my pleasure. Yesterday, I already discussed with a young lady in our booth for INBAR. So the first question, I think in the past, the farmers and the cities and the factories, the relationship, only the farmers sell the raw materials of the bamboo stock to the factories. Nowadays, we in creative, also in creative, we are linking more closer relationship between farmers and villages and city and the manufacturing. And the method including about, in the before, the first step of the processing of manufacturing of bamboo productions is in city, in factory. Nowadays, no. From a bamboo pole, processing to a bamboo, like this panel, there are many processings. The first to the five step is as you must split. And first, in the cut and the bamboo in a fixed norms, and split the bamboo poles to the split, each split, and then they must name the bamboo stick like a square slippers. So this kind of step now is processing in farmers, in the village, not in the city, in the factory. Then the factories want to training more farmers. In a busy time, in a not busy times of farming, there are workers, not only for farmers. So through these measures, the farmers can increase their incomes, and the farmers and the manufacturers can lower their cost. And also, each processing and manufacturing many wastings. Before we call that wasting materials. Nowadays, there are another raw materials.
True.
For new productions, such as yesterday, some people may take our peanut of bamboo carbon made that, and we use. Before we call it the wasting, but it's a very clean and healthy for the health, for the raw materials. So they made it that. There is the first question, okay? The second question, you mentioned business. Nowadays, IKEA is the biggest buyers of our principle, the Fujian principle. IKEA is the best buyers. And in North America, there's a Home Depot. And many business in Amazon, I know. Many my friends, they make the kitchen cabinets. They only sell the doors in Amazon. So in China, special is in Yuan'an City. About 10 years ago, they already marketing international export many bamboo productions. Just now I mentioned we have another productions. That's for container flooring. Before, container flooring is used expensive hard wood. This kind of wood maybe grows 100 years old, can be used. Nowadays, we can use the raw materials as bamboo, only 5 years can be used. So this kind of Musky, as a shipping company, Musky, also already used that 10 years ago. Many factories about floorings and some innovation floorings about people can accessible the heating on the floor first. Then above the heating, we use the bamboo floor. And so the conclusion is China and enterprise in China try to make the consumers and export enterprise can use more and more this kind of sustainable materials, sustainable productions. So it's my question.
Thank you, Mr. Zhang, Dr. Zhang. Just so you know, the domestic market in China is currently worth about $30 billion per year. And that is, the whole range of things you see here: paper, manufacturing of furniture or flooring, textiles, as was mentioned, food, bamboo shoots, charcoal. So that whole market is $30 billion. The international export is about $2 billion. So in fact, the international trade at the moment is dwarfed by the domestic trade. But as Dr. Jiang says, we are more and more getting international trade through internet, most of it, and through some of the big market leaders, I guess, in the international world.
The question from Jaja Wahanu. I just want to say a bit more why China is well developed in bamboo sector. Only a number of countries asked about this question. What our country can learn about it? INBAR conduct a kind of survey and write a report, synthesis report on bamboo policy in China. And we come up with a document that available on INBAR website. You can download it. That is China subsidy policy for a bamboo afforestation project. You can see the policy wide range from subsidy for reforestation unto product development with all the different development models there. Any country could learn from that how you can promote bamboo industry in the countries. At the moment, we know that in Indonesia have also large volume of bamboo and very good species. That is asper. And you produce also some lot of product, strand-woven product, but it's export to the Netherlands via a company, Musu.
Great. Yeah. This is a website, by the way, where you can get that report that Eduardo mentioned also.
Yeah, two reports are there.
Is free.
Bamboo for land restoration.
Great.
Yeah.
Vincent, any last words from you? Because I think we have only about 5 or 10 minutes, and I don't know if we can go on much longer, although we started late. But give us some of your final thoughts.
Well, given some of the questions that were very interesting, one of the things we know we will need to do is, of course, we will need to restore lands, but we will need also to find new resources for renewable materials. Let's take wood. Now, about 40% of the wood comes from planted forest. We know that in the future it will need to grow up to 70%. And bamboo also makes a forest. So we know that we haven't talked about climate change, but climate change mitigation is not only about energy, it's about decarbonizing all our value chains, and steel is very carbon rich, to find new renewable resource and put biocarbon into the value chains. And this will need to grow exponentially. By the way, this is also one of our focused areas of our program in FTA with INBAR. And I think we need to give the technological means to connect different value chains and different products, including how they can make use of the raw material, byproducts, co-products, etc., all based on biomass and land resource. That's number one. Number two, youth. We haven't talked about youth, but we met with some of the youth delegations here and also in Rome a few months ago, and they told us how difficult sometimes it was to engage for them with the wood industry that was sometimes looking old. I think here we have an industry that looks quite young and with promising development that also can be very attractive to people entering the job market and thinking of what they'll do in the future. And lastly, of course, we've seen, and also in the picture, very high-tech solutions out of bamboo, and also as well as more traditional ways. I think there is here much to learn between the experience of countries on how some, maybe that's also a solution for Indonesia to look at some of the high-tech solutions and the infrastructures, but also enriching the high-tech solution with some of the more traditional uses that come from, sometimes millennium. So, yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Yilin, can I ask you your last thoughts before we close this session?
我是希望通过这样子的会议就是把这个人类对竹子的应用我们 希望能够提升到一个更高一个高度来认识水，因为它毕竟是绿色的、可再生的，对全球的应对气候变化贡献会非常大。
Well, we actually hope via such kind of plenary meetings or any kind of meetings like this that we could introduce this bamboo to the world to know it more and to use it more. Because as such a green and renewable resource, this will greatly help the tackling with the climate change and the SDGs, everything that we are hoping with the green direction in the future.
Shishia, thank you. Eduardo, do you want to say last word?
Yes. I would just like to come back with the point that you mentioned on payment for environmental services and what Hans mentioned on the incentives that came from the government of China to scale up the bamboo. Let's try to put the two things together. It's certainly well-managed bamboo plantations and bamboo management, even a natural bamboo management, can certainly contribute to the landscape. The ecosystem services is provided not by the species, but by the ecosystem. So what we aim at is to have sustainable landscapes in which bamboo, with its wide range of adaptation, can play an important role. More important than the payment, the compensation, of course, it's one of the incentives. You can think of a range of incentives because you can have the payment, but you can have, for instance, a promotion of markets. Or you can have also disincentives for not to do wrong practices, which is more restrictive. So if you look at the range of incentives for ecosystem service and the role of bamboo in the landscape, I think we will reach the scale that we need to come out of the concrete country case studies into a more global role for the bamboo management.
Thank you. Mr. Garyang.
All right. Hi. All right. Actually, I'm going to share the last story behind our company. And actually, before we were making the white paper, and 7 years ago, we just stopped it, and without any transition, just stopped it immediately. We realized, and people saw us as we are a company with some commercial things. Actually, we are not selling the tissue paper. Tissue paper is just one way for us to deliver our concept. You know, I think we only have one Earth. We should treat us as good as we can. And we are selling a lifestyle. We think people in the world should live like this. So we create a different products like a tissue paper for baby and mommy use, the antibacterial rate up to 99%. So
thank you.
Maybe we can invent some other things, just not overuse the trees.
Great, thanks a lot. Long, your last thoughts.
Thank you very much. By my level, you see that bamboo are very good species, suitable for land restoration, and then it's also very good opportunities for economic development. That's why we should encourage the countries and national policy, international policy to use bamboo for land restoration where it's possible. That's my
True. Dr. Jiang, you have a last word?
Yes.
A quick one?
And here, I'm an honor. I wanted the city of Yang'an, the bamboo city, want to has an innovation share base. And the government also want to establish example in China how to creative and innovation and design center. So the Yang'an welcome everybody here to West Yang'an. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are getting towards the end. Difficult to wrap all this up, but I think I've listened, and I think there are a number of things that came out. Of course, the diversity of bamboo is a key thing. 1,642 species, to be precise, throughout the tropical belt, Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and even in the Pacific. But different species that can be used for different purposes, different species that are applicable and appropriate in different contexts. I think, therefore, the appropriate technology is important, as Eduardo said. Sometimes we have to start small. It may be just furniture. It may be some simple manufacturing. Other places we can go to a high-level, high-value, high-tech developments. And it's really a stepping process of development. I think it's really important what Vincent stressed, the link between the restoration and the economics, the socio-economics, I should say. And that includes maybe this whole discussion about incentives and disincentives and the finance angle of that. Research, innovation, industrialization, all very important. We can't just stay where we are, and I think there are still some great opportunities of making new products from bamboo and looking at new ways of actually using bamboo within the landscape. And as we said, a lot of it depends on the infrastructure development, the access. If you want to develop an industry, you need to be able to get to the raw product. And if you want to get to the market, you need to be able to transport it there. Transport costs is very often a challenge in the work that we are trying to promote. Last but certainly not least, we did touch on it, standards. One of the biggest challenges we have is that, again, as several people said, bamboo is often treated as wood, but it isn't. And therefore you find that if you actually get to the real question, whether there is a standard for production, a standard for manufacturing, a standard for certain aspects, bamboo often falls between two stools because it's not there. So this is a very important thing to look at, both national standards, but also universally acceptable international standards. So with all of that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you learned something. I hope you found it interesting. I'm very glad to see the room is now full. I want to thank our panelists, and I hope you agree that this was an interesting discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
True.